Hey again, this is Song in High Summer continued. There's been a big hiatus because we've had September dedicated to Chile and Victor Jara, so I'm just getting back to it. You can get full copies though, if you're that interested. Just send your name and address. This then, I've decided to do it the most interesting bits, rather than, droning on forever. And this then is the story of how we set out and achieved the invasion of the late Queen's castle at Balmoral in Scotland, her holiday home. Never before accomplished, never since. So here we go, off to Balmoral. So here we were, a delegation of church leaders gathered in Crathy Church across from Balmoral Castle. 10:30 a.m., a beautiful morning. We'd come to lay an open letter before Queen Elizabeth II in Scotland at her holiday home. Nobody had ever done this before, and no one has ever done it since. The focus of our anger was the imminent deployment of cruise missiles in Britain and Western Europe. The British government under Margaret Thatcher was arguing that our weapons systems needed to be modernized to counter the Russians' build-up in Eastern Europe. The peace movement said cruise, with its first strike capability by stealth, undermined the deadlock of the threat of mutually assured destruction, otherwise known as MAD, on which peace and security were supposed to rest. And it was the first of a new generation of weapons which, including the monstrously accurate and powerful Trident, would escalate Britain's nuclear power 1,000-fold. The morning of Balmoral was a marvellous combining of the pressure of the times and a great deal of luck. We began the journey to the gates of one castle, camping out under the walls of another. Princes Street, Edinburgh's main thoroughfare, lies directly below the huge castle rock, rearing up in the centre of the city. To the west of Princes Street stands a tall, dark church, St. John's. In the early 80s, it became a centre of peace action under a new rector, Canon Neville Chamberlain. He and the British Prime Minister's famous Peace in Our Time remark arrived simultaneously. Unhappily, by the time Hitler was smashing into Poland, Neville was irrevocably christened. We heard of an international group who were fasting open-endedly to challenge our government's priorities in upgrading their nuclear weapons, while reducing their assistance for those without proper food. We set up a support fast each Sunday. The fast was the initiative of a wonderful couple, Charles Gray and his wife, Dorothy Granada. And after the fast, Dorothy went on to live in Nicaragua and do tremendous work among mothers at risk in the countryside, deep in the heart of Nicaragua in Mulucucu. Neville and his church gave us our base. We coaxed passers-by to stop and write messages of encouragement to the fasters, and we don't want cruise or Trident cards to the government. The real fasters drew close to 60 days without solid food, and still we hadn't even made the local papers. Just before the signing, I picked up a surprise call. Michael Herr Duke, one of the Episcopal Church's most forthright bishops on making peace. "We liked the statement, Paul," he said. "With a bit of amendment, I think we could get our bishops' conference to back it. We're meeting tomorrow. Would you mind if I changed it here and there and took it to the other bishops?" Would I mind? The following evening he was back. "We did it, Paul. The whole conference signed the letter. Also, again, I hope you don't mind, but we sent our signed copy on to the Roman Catholic bishops. They'll be having their conference next week. Mind? Suddenly the phone was red hot. Before we knew it, leaders of all the main denominations had called in their support, many of them pledging to take part in the public signing. So far, so suddenly good. We realized we could go for broke. Wasn't this especially the Scottish church community in anger? Didn't the Queen make much of her Scottish connections? Hey, wasn't she in fact up in Scotland already for the traditional family holiday together at Balmoral? So she was not supposed to be approached on political matters, but we'd gone to the government repeatedly with no success. Why shouldn't the Scottish churches go to her as head of state to tell her just how impossible real dialogue was with Her Majesty's government under Margaret Thatcher? The Iron Lady had her defence of liberty bit well and truly between her teeth in the wake of her jingoistic bullying of Argentina, Las Malvinas. Her gunboats had probably saved her from political extinction, and she was seizing her time to railroad the missiles in. Such a venture would also give the churches, increasingly loud in their condemnation of continued reliance on ever more powerful and or more accurate weapons, a chance to act together. Okay, let's go for it. We had a line of senior bishops, moderators of whole churches, and general secretaries of councils of churches. The spark had fallen just when the brush of so many withered hopes had reached explosion point, and the winds of all our anger were reaching storm strength. Getting to Balmoral was tricky. Here were church leaders whose programs were filled months in advance, expecting me, a renegade monk with no official church standing and a highly dubious faith, to pull off a top-level delegation together in less than a week. It had to be top-level from all the main Christian denominations, and the taboos around Balmoral had to be broken, plus the Queen had to be persuaded that the iron rule preventing the interruption of the monarch's holiday had to be set aside. It says a great deal about our anger at the northern government's betrayal of the world's peoples, that crossing two such minefields should even have been attempted, and that such people, bound by but subtle chains of rank and position, should have come so emphatically off the fence. Since leaving Nunro, I'd been out of the official church. This may have been a good thing, since, all unaware of cross-currents and protocols, I banged on cardinals' doors and rang moderators up, ignoring the jungle of ecclesiastical divisions and committees. Almost at once, a couple of leaders said they'd drop everything else for Balmoral, and we were on our way. Balmoral itself was much tougher.